Hey everyone, Kaivox here, and today I'm going to be explaining to you guys how to make this cheap IKEA desk way better and way stronger and hopefully last for a long, long time. So I've gotten a few comments asking me how I put the desk together and how I built the frame for it. So I said to myself, let's make a video about it. So guys, if you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's talk about the parts and the tools that we're gonna need. One thing I didn't show you guys was the saw I used. I actually used a miter saw. The whole point of it is so that you could do this and get a nice 45 on each side so you can get a nice little corner. The other option would be to buy something kind of like this, which personally I just bought to check out to see if it actually worked, and it doesn't really work. You get like a 40-degree angle or a 45 that's kind of crooked, but I mean, if you don't care 100% about the looks, this thing costs like 10 bucks and it works well enough. The tabletop that we're actually using today is the Ikea Lack shelf. As opposed to building a whole new desk where I have no space for, I'm gonna build a mini desk, a mini desk for no reason except for you guys. This is solely for you. I'm wasting all this material for you guys so you guys know how I did it, and hopefully it helps some of you putting together your desk, making your crappy IKEA desk much better and much stronger. IKEA pretty much uses this same system for most of their things, where they use a thin piece of particle wood board, MDF type thing for the outer pieces, and in the inside they just have a cardboard honeycomb style. So pretty much this is exactly the same thing as your Linnmon desk. Now that you have your tabletop, what you're gonna have to do is obviously measure everything out. Remember, measure twice, cut once. I've made that mistake so many times. Even when I measure twice, sometimes I still make mistakes. It happens. Always make sure if you're buying material, buy a little bit extra, unless you want to have to go back to the store and buy more material. What we're actually going to do is we're going to leave this back open. So I'm going to pretend that this goes up against a wall somewhere. Your desk isn't always going to be free floating. If it is, you just change your measurements a little bit. I just wanted to do this for an example so you guys know how to do it the way I did it, because mine is in the corners. I'm not gonna have trim all around the desk because nobody's gonna see that side. So I left that side without the trim. Also, you save a little bit of money if you do that. Trim is probably the most expensive part of all of the materials you're gonna need. So with the 2x4s, you're gonna have to measure them slightly smaller than the actual border of your table. So here's where it gets a little tricky. You could actually measure everything out. You could measure how much you're going to need so that this actually fits on here with that little bit of a gap right there, so that you could actually fit this guy on it. Boom! Yeah, you could measure everything, but I would say probably a little bit more simple way to do it is to lay your material out. Let's say cut one side maybe so this is a little bit longer, put it on your desk, and then lay this on here just to make sure, so you know exactly where it's supposed to go. And then once you have that set up, you make your markings and you cut. All right guys, so this is how the main frame is going to be set up. We're gonna have the tabletop. This is obviously upside down. This is the bottom of the desk. We're gonna have the 2x4s set up, measured perfectly, so you have that little bit of a gap. When you get the trim piece, basically this trim is just to cover up the 2x4s so you can't see them, so they don't look ugly on your desk. And you're gonna have those, remember these 45-degree angles are probably the most important part about this build. because you want them to look good. You want that corner seam to look really nice. So that's looking at the desk from the bottom. And now we have these pieces that are going to go in between, and these are actually going to hold the frame together. These holes are made by the Craig pocket hole jig, and it's probably one of my favorite tools that I've ever bought. There's a couple of different prices and sizes for them. Obviously, the more expensive one you buy, the faster and easier it is to make multiple holes. You can get one for about $30, but you're going to be making one hole at a time, but it takes quite a bit. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, and it makes your life a little bit harder. This is the subframe. This is the frame that's going to hold everything together, that's going to make your desk super strong. With these screws going through this way, like that. If you guys are going to try to start doing home projects like this, getting a pocket hole jig is definitely a good idea. It doesn't take professional training. It doesn't take, there's a ton of YouTube videos out there. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start putting this together, and I'll show you guys how I did it. So some of the pocket hole jigs come with this really nice clamp that just keeps everything flush so that you don't have to worry about it going out of whack on you. So guys, this is the point where you would take the frame and attach the legs to it, and then after that's done, after you have all the legs attached to wherever you want to put them, so now you have a lot more options for where you want to put legs. You don't need as much support, or you can actually move the legs around, put them like right here or over here, or maybe in the middle somewhere if you put another piece of wood there. It gives you a lot more options by having this frame. So now we're at the point where you would take your frame, lay it down, put your tabletops on top of them, and depending on if you have multiple tabletops that are going to be touching each other, I would recommend you guys using, this is one of the optional tools that you're going to need, a dowel hole jig. So what this will do is it will actually allow you to line up holes on two different tabletops, allowing you to line them up perfectly and insert them into each other, keeps them from moving and shifting on you, as well as just helps you line them up before you fasten everything permanently. You would measure out from each side to whatever measurement you want to use, let's say 4 inches, 5 inches. What I did, I believe, was like 4.5 inches or 5 inches, I'm not sure right now, but I made basically one hole here and then one hole here. And then on the opposite desk, I would make the same exact hole in the same orientation at the same distance. What that then allowed me to do was insert a dowel into it so that the opposite end would meet up perfectly and insert. So once you have all your dowels in and all of your holes set, what you're going to do is you're going to start laying down the tabletops on top of your frame. At this point, everything should be lined up perfectly, depending on how well you measured and how many times you measured. So good luck, guys, on that. You may have to go back to the drawing board and recut everything. I personally pretty much did that. I measured one thing about a foot too short somehow. I don't know how that happened, so I had to go back and add that extra foot on at the end. Remember, never assume that your measurements are right the first time. Just double check, make sure. You're gonna run out of materials if you keep messing it up. So once you have your tabletop on top of everything, that's when your little trim pieces are gonna come into play, and make sure your 45 degrees are nice, make sure they fit together properly. At this point, I haven't actually fastened the tabletop to the frame yet, because it'll give you a little bit of play, a little bit of leniency if you need it. So I actually like to fasten the trim directly to the frame only and not the tabletop. Later on, if you ever want to change the tabletop out, it'll give you the opportunity to do that without having to rip apart your frame. So at this point, this is when you could use your nail gun. For us, we're just gonna use glue just to make it easier. Not everybody has a nail gun and compressor, so let's put that guy away. That's what I use on my desk. For the tutorial purposes of this, we're gonna actually use my favorite type of super glue, Gorilla Glue in gel form, which gives you a little bit more control and it's not as runny. Make sure you don't get it on anything because then it ruins it and then you're gonna cry. So guys, at the end, this is what the frame's gonna look like pretty much. And then all you need after this is the tabletop. The hardest part is probably the measuring, making sure everything is right. And if you guys don't have the tools, you may run into a couple issues. The right tools definitely help the job. So remember guys, all you need to do is have your frame set up, put the legs underneath it, screw them in. It's fine to use those the Ikea ones. That's what I have on mine. Once you have all of that set up, you take your tabletop, place it right on top, fasten it to the table whatever way you guys want to, but just make sure that it's nice and tight on there so you don't get any gaps. Once that's set up, you guys pretty much have a used to be crappy desk and now is an awesome, strong, sturdy. It's gonna last hopefully for a long time. And I hope you guys like this video. Hopefully I was able to explain enough. If you guys have any specific questions, let me know in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe for some more stuff like this. Check out some of the other videos. Thanks for watching. I'm Kaivox. See you next time. Bye, 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 bye.